Hello and welcome to the final panel of the day. My name's Lizi and I'm the Executive Creative Director at Octagon. I am the creative that has helped build the wonderful sports store that is on Regent Street, specifically for women's sport, Style of Our Own. And today I have the honour of inviting two amazing guests on stage with me. They do need an introduction, or maybe they don't, because Claire, you have just owned the room. So Claire Nelson, please join me, the Managing Director of Netball Super League. And for those that don't know, Claire is an award-winning leader who is recognised as one of the most impactful and influential women in women's sport. And in 2023, Claire actually managed to become the director of Netball Super League to really professionalise the domestic game. Welcome. Thanks. And Kirsten Stagg, please join us, the Managing Director at Skoda. So Kirsten is an experienced marketing and digital director and automotive leader. I'm tripping over my words, it's fine. Named as one of the most inspirational women in automotive. Well done. Kirsten is the Creative Salon's top 50 creative marketers in the UK. So let's get down to the question, shall we? Because this summer of women's sport is amazing. We've obviously got the Netball Grand Finals coming up. Very exciting. The Lionesses are going to be defending their Euros title. We have got the Women's Rugby World Cup coming in August and the Women's Open. So if anybody's golfing, we've got it all. So where do we begin? I feel like we could chat for an hour at least. But Kirsten, I'm actually going to start with you. There's a lot of momentum around women's sport, finally. How are the brands benefiting from this growth in women's sport?
Yeah, I think it's crazy, isn't it? Like, momentum behind it is absolutely huge, and that's really exciting for us as brands because I work in cars, so I work for Skoda, and if you look at men's sport, the sponsorship landscape is so saturated. So whatever sport you look at, somebody's been there, they've done it. There's nothing new to do, and so it's quite hard to make a difference, stand out, and so. For me, that's really exciting because you can jump on the momentum, but also really stand out because nobody's really there owning the space, so you can do something new and interesting and make your mark. And, for us, it's amazing because our brand historically was bought by men, really well informed about cars, quite petrol heads, quite car geeks, and actually our growth opportunity is younger customers and women, and they don't all care about cars, so sports is really good for us because then we can just engage with people on something that they're genuinely interested in rather than what we want them to be interested in.
Accessing that audience is incredible, and what an audience it is. Claire, the Netball Super League, you are kind of unlocking a new wave of fandom, they call it. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just explain how that's working for you?
Yeah, well, it's working really well in our first season because we've already got 40% increase in attendances, and I've got some great stats here in our growth. We've just seen the Women's Sports Trust data come out and actually shown a bit of a decline in watching and attendances, and for us to come out in our first ever season and to show growth across the board of a very, very unique audience. That Sky watching audience is 75% female, and 50% of them are under 35. We represent new female audiences. And going back to kind of, the stats that I shared at the top of my session, we've got a big participation base. Now that's a powerful thing, but it's a unique thing. So where we're at with women's sport at the moment is there's interest and demand coming in. So people that potentially haven't played the more traditionally male sports are watching it and they're enjoying it and they're finding their place in it. What we have are people who already know the sport and have experienced it and love it. But the drivers for women participating in a hobby activity are very different to being a fan. It's very much about health, fitness, lifestyle, community, friendship. So for us, in order to then say, okay, you know the sport, you love the sport, you are engaged with what we're doing, what do we need to build for you to come? And that's really where it gets interesting because women are not conditioned to spend money and time systematically on being sports fans. Mm-hmm. So baby boys are born into a home and they're put in their kit and there's generations of football largely, or rugby fans in there, and we'll get the season ticket, we sit in these seats, this is what we do on a Saturday, we'll go away, blah, blah, blah. We don't have that. So we've got to create fandom, but in a new way. What we also then have to understand is all the gender gap stuff that I talked about. So we want women who are looking after the kids and are, impacted by everything where there's gender gaps to go, okay, we want you to come and do this now. And doing this is going to take time and spend. And that spend is also not protected for women's sports. That spend is entertainment, music, fashion, skincare, all the things that we get influenced on. So to understand these habits is to then create a product and a proposition that resonates. And there's two ways to do that. For us, we've gone all in on our match day. Again, come to the O2 on Sunday. But when you look at the WNBA, in the rise of that, we are the only indoor arena team sport. Our athletes are at the top of the game. We are driving the intercept between art, fashion, music, lifestyle. We've got a 4-hour festival with DJs. We're creating an experiential value for money moment that makes people go, I am going to go there and have a great time. What then needs to sit alongside that is an always-on athlete-led content strategy, because female fandom is built around female athletes. And that storytelling, those ambassadors, those role models, that's what people, whether they know your sport or they want to find your sport, that's where they're resonating. So we've done some great stuff this year. I have plans to do even better stuff next year.
Amazing. I mean, I'm exhausted just hearing about it. It's wonderful. So good, so good.
I am knackered, I'm not going to lie.
The female fandom is there, wonderful, and we need brands to sit alongside it. We need brands to step into this space. And just picking up on something you sort of spoke to earlier, Kirsten, is how do you make it that authentic play? So there's a piece that Skoda's done that sort of warmed my heart a lot around the Tour de France. I don't know if you want to explain the campaign to us and really see how you lifted the game for it.
Yeah, cool. I mean, probably the first time that we got involved in women's sport was through cycling. So Skoda actually started out making bikes, so that was where our history started. So being involved with cycling is like a natural progression for us. And Skoda's been the sponsor of the Tour de France for over 20 years. But you might not believe that there wasn't a women's Tour de France. There wasn't an equivalent multi-stage race. There wasn't much appetite to create it either. I think for the guys that were in charge, I mean, they were mostly men. They were pretty happy with the status quo. Obviously, it's an incredible event, but it didn't sit well with us as an inclusive brand. It felt like we really needed to try and do something to make the change. So we created a campaign called This Is Our Time, where we really shone a spotlight on this. We teamed up with a group of really talented female cyclists and took them along, and they rode every single stage of the men's Tour de France, but one day before the men. So stealing their thunder, creating great content. But what was amazing about that was it obviously really resonated with people. I think until then people hadn't stopped and given it they just hadn't even thought about the women. And, and now, of course, we do have a Tour de France fam, which is amazing, and we're the sponsor. So, yeah, we were really proud to be able to play our little part in, making that happen and, using the power of brands to support the growth of women's sport, because together then we can achieve something really powerful.
But that's the opportunity for me right now, and I've been talking about it for about 2 years, now is the time for brands that are creative and innovative, who disrupt us, which this entire 3-day conference is all about, actually getting involved with women's sports now. We talk about the brands that we work with, we co-create and collaborate. So, for example, we have the luxury, because we own our whole sport, we introduced a new rule this year. We wanted to create more excitement, more drama in our match days, so you now have a 2-point super shot. From the edge of the circle, the last 5 minutes of every quarter. We bought Soft and Gentle in, the deodorant, because they're keeping us cool under pressure. And they branded that activation, and it has been the best thing we've done. We've taken a pop-up activation of that, and we've put it right in front of BBC Studios. We had Vernon Kay doing it, and all their artists. We've had it at Sky Sports Studios, where we've had all the Soccer AM guys and everyone having a go at it. We've taken it into Liverpool One and created these these experiences. That's bringing to life a product innovation that is also really building that brand affinity and just trying new things. Like, why would you not want to try something other than a logo on a shirt?
I couldn't agree with you more. Trying new things and testing and learning is such a wonderful way.
Yes.
But also building that audience and that fan base for women's sport. Can I lift the lid on what the return on investment is? Because we often hear kind of in the sort of the public domain that, like, am I still getting the eyeballs that men's sport get? Kirsten, how does that work when you work alongside kind of Chelsea women? Because you've done the women's team, not the men's team.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think the interesting thing about women's sport for brands is actually it makes many like sports accessible that wouldn't be accessible otherwise. So if you think about getting involved with a Premier League men's team, I mean, you're going to spend all of your budget before you've ever even done anything interesting. So I think for us, actually, it's been pretty easy to prove the return on investment. I think one of the key things has been making sure that you really do understand the full value that you're getting, so not just like limiting yourself to looking at, you know, maybe like the media metrics, how many seconds worth of time was your logo on the screen. It's like the full impact that you're having on how people feel about your brand. There's loads of research about how positively women respond to brands that are getting involved in women's sports. It's actually like really phenomenal, and I think that's because people understand that it's growing and you need brands actually have like a role to play to help that growth, and they recognise that the athletes need, you know, more money, they need, you know, better training facilities and all of that. So I think the other thing that I would say about measuring ROI as well is just about thinking, for us it was about not just looking back at like previous stats, but also like projecting forward. So we've seen that huge growth, so you almost have to take a little bit of a calculated risk to see where the trajectory is going, and we've seen that with some of the things that we tried with Chelsea Women, with their podcasts and some initiatives that we've done, you know, just from one season to the next, you know, the growth in what it's giving to us is absolutely huge. So yeah, you have to almost have a little bit of a calculated risk, but I think it's worth it.
I'm totally with you on the risk, and I think it needs a far more sophisticated conversation, and also it's the recognition that each partnership is going to have different objectives. Like that, you know, it's not all the same. We want to sell this or have this many eyeballs. But I think, you know, again, thinking about a journey. So if you're sitting with me in my sport at the moment, do I have the same eyeballs as someone in WSL or Premiership? No, but what I can show you is a 230% increase in total viewing hours in a market where we've seen less. We have seen that audience is 77% female and 53% under 35. We've got a 60% increase in Sky Sports YouTube views. That represents new broadcast consumer audiences at a rate that no one else is able to give. Looking then at our TikTok followers and our athletes that we have, then you look at the fact that we have an always-on proposition, and our international team are going to hopefully win gold on the world stage in Glasgow next year, and this massive grassroots. So for me, it's always about, you can have one netballer and 10 male footballers, and you put a piece of content, the right piece of content in them, who's going to make it work for you? And so I guess it's what floats your boat. For some people, they want to be in big stadiums with football and have that hospitality. And for me, I would look for innovators, creators, collaborators. How can you own a piece of that market? How can you be part of changing the game when it comes down to, you know, what those gender gaps are? As a financial services, are we trying to educate young women so that they are empowered to make the decisions that enable them to confidently live the lives they need moving forward? Are we, through our Netball Her leading health platform, getting women to be more body curious and confident, because we exist in a misogynistic healthcare system where the data isn't supporting women? How do we be part of that change? So you've got innovation, you've got activation, you've got storytelling and content, you've got role models and athletes, you've got the start of a journey where you come in and you bank for your buck and you're only going to grow, and you can be a big fish in a small pond. And so the risk for me is not getting that and staying safe, because the brands that get it and truly lean into it and try these things are the brands that are going to have the greatest connectivity with the most powerful audience across homes and communities, bar none.
Yes. As a creative, I love this idea that we've got more space to play in the women's sport. And I think the players, the leagues, the rights holders are being very generous. That time will stop because it is building with huge momentum. I'm so excited to see where it goes to. We've got some great brands in the audience. We've got some great kind of people who are interested in stepping into women's sport. If there was one sort of mind shift change, and you may have covered it a little bit, but what do you want them to kind of see or change around women's sport so that they are happy to kind of enter this space and maybe sit at that grand final at Netball and enjoy it in all its glory?
We just got to try it.
Right.
I mean, like, change doesn't come. Nothing is different if you just don't try something. And I just think, as I said, at the moment, women's sport is the biggest, fastest growing market. And then when you look at, particularly here in the UK, like Nike have identified that London, the city, is its biggest marketplace globally, not even like, you know, a region or a country. We are savvy, you know, fashion forward, engaged human beings, and we've got young women in particular who want more, who stand for more. We've got sports properties that are being developed and going on a journey. We've got infrastructure being invested in that sits around that. So why would you not want to be part of that journey? And as I said, the financial risk is lower at the moment, and that does frustrate me because I want to sell us at the value that I think the potential is there. But actually, I'm most excited, if you kind of got that from my last session, about building something that no one else has done in women's sport, like really, really building this cool, digital, experiential, bring new products in product, and then using that platform to change the game, because the most followed male personalities on social media by boys are sports stars. For girls, it's reality stars. That is not the health message that I want anybody growing up in, and our athletes are the best role models. And I just think there's so much there that can create a happier, healthier, fairer future through sport. So what I will say is playing safe and being cautious isn't doing anyone any favors. If you look at what happens in the States, Bay FC and the Valkyries, two expansion teams in women's sports, basketball and football, both coming out within one season of each other in the same area. They've got massive investment and support around them. They're not waiting for a proof of concept model. They're going, this is really fucking cool. Like, this is women's sport. Yep. We get to build this. We get to do this. They're going hard. What's happened? Oh, they are breaking all their commercial records, front of shirt deals, tickets, season tickets. It is commercially delivering quicker because they are speculating to get that accumulates. We're too safe and cautious here. I'm not entirely sure why, because if we think that we are a nation of disruptors, data-driven, we're talking about AI, then women's sport has got to be the place for you to go and really test and innovate.
Yeah. We could literally talk about this all day.
All day.
I'm getting the eyeballs of please get off the stage. But my two kind of amazing panelists have been sensational. Kirsten, we've got so much more to talk about. This is an invitation for everybody to talk to these wonderful women today, but also come and join us at Style of Our Own on Regent Street. It's the world's first women's sports store. Let's do it.
I'm just going to say as well, what a finale. You didn't disappoint as well. I've been emceeing on this stage since 9:30 this morning, and that was the chef's kiss. Amazing. Lizi, Claire, and to you, Kirsten, thank you all so, so much. You can head off stage. We've now removed the trophy very gingerly.